asking what exactly the U.S. wants to see China do in that area. Most analysts and economists will tell you that this is not really opening the door. It is basically just acknowledging that the door exists someplace. But when that story published, the markets did spike. While you were sleeping, though, President Trump imposed a massive tariff that you might actually feel pretty soon. It's the famous, or famous now anyway, de minimis loophole. That's the one that most of us had no idea existed before this, but now realize it means that all of our online shopping is going to be that much more expensive. It is the one that has allowed things worth $800 or less to come into the country duty-free. That one expired at midnight, so take a look at your Shein or Temu or Quince receipts in the coming days. I'm a little too old to perhaps pronounce those correctly, but hey, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't want to say it's like, a dog with a bone or a treat, but that's a little bit how it feels nowadays. When I sit down here at 4 o'clock, the markets are closing. It's like, has somebody somewhere tossed the dog treat into the water for them to catch, or has the place, being told it's not going to be fed for the next week? How serious or real do you think this overture from China is, and what does it mean?
Well, I mean, look, we are, I think today's May 2, so that means we are 1 month past Liberation Day, and, I'm so excited.
Do you feel liberated?
I feel extremely liberated. At the end of the day, China has an interest in coming to some sort of deal. The United States has an interest in coming to some sort of deal. Whether it is an improvement on the status quo from April pre-Liberation Day remains to be seen. There's a huge debate in sort of Trump world and Trump world adjacent about whether Trump is going to see this stuff through or find an off-ramp. And because the weirdness of all this is that they did it all backwards. It's like they front-loaded all the political pain, all the economic pain for the promise of reward down the road. And this is just simply unsustainable. The market volatility alone is not a healthy thing. And so I think they're going to come up with something face-saving.
Right. Well, and the fear itself can obviously lead to a recession.
Yeah, I think they are not yet faced with the consequences of their actions. We're just starting to feel that now, and we will be feeling it in the weeks to come. So that, I think, is when the rubber hits the road and when we're really going to see if Trump will see this through or he will not see it through. Up until now, you saw the jobs report today, a good jobs report. The economic news has been a little bit all over the place, but it's not like people are really, really feeling the pain. They will be soon, and that's when I think the political ramifications will be seen.
Well, Patrick McHenry, I have to say, I was wishing you were on set with us the other day as we were breaking down what Trump had to say about, I believe it was dolls. The kids are going to only have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls. The dolls are going to be more expensive. As the mom of 2 young children, I don't know if your kids are happy when you say no more dolls for you. I do say we can't have more toys occasionally, but obviously it's my wallet that this impacts. I was just stunned that he said that from a purely political strategic perspective. Was that a mistake?
Well, if this was the Romney era or the George W. Bush era, it would be the outrage of the month. But not today. It's like that was a part of an afternoon news cycle, and the next day it's something new. There is so much noise right now. There's so much noise happening in Washington that we're all trying to track and cover, and we're trying to run down everything that's happening here. But we're missing the actual signal here. The strategic view of this administration, this president, is focused on China. There's all this other ancillary stuff that's happening, but it's a trading relationship with China and the world that this president wants to get a new deal with. Everything else is secondary to that. So the pain and punishment, Mark Carney can have an awkward response, but he's going to have to negotiate. We're a much more important trading partner to Canada than they are to us, but it is in our interest to get this resolved. We need to get a roadmap for all these other countries so they can come in, we can have a new trading relationship with them, and they can join us in turning their attention to China. But it's going to be the China deal that will be the make or break thing for this administration, the lasting impact of this president's second term.
Yeah, I kind of assumes that President Trump's going to act rationally, though. I mean, you heard the comment the other day. Look, I'll do something maybe rare for Democrats. I give Trump a lot of credit. He won the election last year by talking about bringing down prices on day one. And instead of having an event every single day where he's bringing down prices of eggs, bringing down prices of gas, bringing down the prices of anything, he puts in place these tariffs, and the immediate impact is the prospect of higher prices for people. And so I think he's not really listening to where voters' concerns are very swiftly. He had the opportunity to seize the mantle of winning the election and doing something and building a huge, economic momentum this year for himself. And instead, it's this self-inflicted wound that he's brought on the tariffs. And I think that it's hard to imagine that he's going to change his mind when he's been saying for 30 years he wants to do these tariffs, and there's such chaos in the administration that even a day like today with the jobs report, which I saw them trumpeting, it reminds me a lot of where we made mistakes as Democrats over the last year, trumpeting some of these macroeconomic things that are fleeting and come out, instead of understanding that that's not actually what people really care about. What people care about is affordability of life. And when prices are going up because of these tariffs,
and they actually care about dolls. When you
they're not
go
going to care about
you
these
go to
stats.
kids and say, like, actually, President Trump is only allowing you to have one doll this Christmas, he becomes the Grinch. He doesn't become Santa Claus.
Now, this morning, another round of tariffs are in effect, this one on imported auto parts, and it could play a significant factor in the auto industry. Previous auto tariffs left U.S.-made cars mostly untouched. But with this new tariff in place, there's not a single U.S. car manufacturer that will get a pass. The CEO of General Motors told CNN the tariffs would cost the company between $4 billion and $5 billion this year. So what does this mean for car buyers? We may not see any price hikes in the short term. Experts estimate, though, the added cost of the tariffs eventually could average to about $4,000 per vehicle. But Trump doesn't seem worried about how these tariffs will affect the economy. He actually said it's okay if the country takes an economic downturn in the short term. CNN's Jeff Zeleny has more from the White House.
Omar, as President Trump spends a working weekend at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, the economy remains front and center on the minds of the challenges of this White House, of this administration, even as the White House is releasing its budget blueprint, if you will, to slash spending across the government. The president was asked about the question of a recession by NBC's Kristen Welker.
And that's my question,
Remember
the
this.
long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically.
The president talking about a transition period, that is something he certainly did not talk about when he was running for office, when he promised to lower prices on day one. But there is no doubt about it. The president is simply trying to buy more time for the economy to get back up to speed, even as the administration tries to ink some type of a trade deal that so far has been elusive.
Is there something to what, President Trump has been talking about, the reorganization of the world economic order, right? But is this jobs number also showing the reorientation of how jobs and where jobs are created? Because the fact is, as Christine was telling you, that when you have actual diminishing federal jobs, and you include that in the formula, and then you get these numbers, is that also part of a changing shift?
I wouldn't say so, in the sense that, there's 2.5 million federal workers in a job market of 160 million people. Now, those layoffs that we're talking about are, I think, quite destructive and certainly very tough for the people who are facing them. But I would not call what President Trump is engaged in any sort of seriously global restructuring. This is him acting out of his just very deep antipathy towards imports, towards trade, towards our trading partners. It's far more chaos than any sort of organized plan. Look, this is kind of an Occam's razor moment. We have a strong job market that has been in place for many years, generating real wage gains to consumers in an economy that's 70% consumer spending. Consumer spending is holding up. The economy is holding up for now.
And Sabrina, so this week we saw the Ukrainian minerals deal. Beijing is now signaling it's open to trade talks. What that could look like, no one knows. This better than expected jobs report. How's the White House feeling in all of this?
The White House, we're seeing them definitely feel a little boosted by the jobs report today. We're seeing them feel some relief to see that, okay, maybe some contours of deals are coming together. But the reality is that we're a long ways away from these deals coming to fruition, particularly with China. And we see that, we're a month after today, May 2nd, a month after Trump said that he, was Liberation Day imposing all these tariffs. A few days later, announced that he was putting a pause on the majority of those tariffs. He said it was a pause for 90 days, and he's talking about making, trade deals with all these countries that he paused those tariffs on. To do these deals in 90 days is incredibly difficult. I think for folks who I covered trade policy for years, so the idea that I spent a year covering just the negotiations between U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and we're going to do deals with, dozens of countries in a matter of weeks, is very hard to envision. And the reality is, given that, there's just so much uncertainty about the future of the tariffs and just how much that could really impact Americans if we're already feeling impacts with the limited ones that have gone into effect.
And Christine, let's talk about that, because this new tariff on auto parts set to take effect tomorrow. What kind of impact is that going to have?
Well, look, the North American auto industry is heavily reliant on goods and services from Canada and Mexico and everywhere around the world, right? So now the president has sort of stepped back, and instead of all of these tariffs stacking on top of each other, these auto tariffs, there'll be a way to have a rebate for what you're paying for the auto parts tariffs. It's a complicated, I have to tell you, for an administration that has talked about cutting red tape and being more laissez-faire to business, there is so much red tape around these tariffs. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but it's a whole new structure here for them to figure out how to tax the parts of a car. And the economists that even after all of these, changes from the White House are saying $2,000 to $12,000 extra for the price of a car, probably $300 extra, according to one estimate, for the insurance that you pay for your car because of higher prices. So tariffs eventually mean higher prices, and now it's just how much higher. That's what everyone's trying to figure out.
Donald he's defeated by China. China wanted a couple things out of this. Obviously, they don't want Trump tariff chaos, just like every other country. Like, China has its desire to sell its goods and to buy goods from around the world, either for its domestic population or they buy, raw materials that they turn into products. Just like people mystify China, like China's so weird and different, but they have the same basic needs any country does, right? And so obviously they want to defeat Trump on tariffs, and it looks like they're doing that. Like, Trump is sort of bending the knee, but also they wanted to use this as a tool for public relations. And whether you like China or you hate China, you have to admit China has never looked better as a global trading option than they do right now, and it's less what China is doing and more the juxtaposition to Trump's America. A lot of countries now, guys, and again, there are concerns with human rights and all of that, but a lot of countries are saying China is the more reliable trading partner. The United States, that's one thing the United States always had going for it. They were a reliable trading partner. Now they're not. They're not. And maybe post-Trump that'll change, and maybe Trump will snap out of it, or maybe there'll be a soft coup against him from within the Republican Party where they effectively take this power away from him and say, sir, you can't do tariffs anymore, like where Congress is taking this power back. Who knows? But right here, right now, China has tricked and trapped Trump in a position where he is now the biggest spokesman for China's new global dominance, because Donald is making it clear why people are starting to move away from the U.S. sphere of influence into China's, but also it's demonstrating that Donald doesn't have the ability to understand that he's getting stuck. China's winning, guys. Xi has already won this first part of the battle anyway.